All right, you're live.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Gyochon Maeul, the historic Hanok village that is here in Gyeongju, one of the few villages that survived the Korean War, and until recently in which people actually lived. So we're going to give you a tour of this village, and we're going to give you some of the history of living on Korea. It was an idea of how life was like in the pre-modern era here in Korea, and we're going to take you into a nobleman's actual mansion, the Chay family, the rich man Chay, as they call them in the very strange translation on the sign. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. If you're watching this as a recording, pop it in the comments. Until about 10 years ago, most of the homes here were actually still residents. And a lot of these are the historical homes as they were, but they've been turned into restaurants. So for example, this is one of our favorite ones. This is a farm to table restaurant. The woman who owns this actually has a farm, and she makes a lot of her own kimchi and her tenjang and gochujang, and she's very delicious food. But you can get an idea of, the different kinds of layouts. So this style of house in modern Korean is called a Hanok, which literally means a Korean building. But that's a term that was only coined during the Japanese Empire when they were starting to distinguish between Korean cultural things and Japanese things. Oh, it was not. So, the term Hanok, before there were Hanok, these buildings were referred to basically by their roof type, actually, because that would actually determine the quality of the construction. The roofs here are tile, so this tells you that this is where noble people lived. And a tile home was called a giwatib in the pre-Japanese era, so Joseon going back to Korea era. Now, the fantastic thing about Gyochon, they have a lot of experience. Traditional things are still being made here. So this is actually a slow food factory. In fact, that is the just all those pots over there. Those are tenjang and gochujang. So tenjang is fermented soybean paste, sort of the foundation, like the Korean miso, for those of you who are familiar with Japanese cuisine, the foundation of a lot of Korean food. And gochujang is the fermented red pepper paste, also the foundation of a lot of modern Korean food. Gochujang is not very historical, though, because gochu didn't even get to Korea until the 18th century, and the aristocratic classes thought it tasted like garbage. So it was actually only the poorer people who apparently used it to preserve food, and kimchi specifically, to give it a longer shelf life. So over here is actually a noodle making experience. You can see the giant chopsticks with the giant noodles. And you can actually come and sign up for noodle making classes. The workshop is over here in the building with the glass, but over here you can actually come and just have a pretty affordable traditional noodle dishes. These are historical in the sense of probably the last, but not if they have the gochu. The gochu is a much more recent addition. The red pepper, much more recent addition. There's these walls, these tile. This gives you a sense of what a Joseon style neighborhood was like. Here we have a ceramic painting experience, but there's also a ceramic shop in here, and have. Hello. Thank you for joining us today. If you have questions about anything you see or would like to look at something more closely, just let us know. Yeah. So I think they actually do also offer classes, like pottery making classes, but for the most part, most people come and just do painting. So if you want to buy, this is the store. So they have a lot of his Sheila era in here because, of course, Gyeongju is famous for Sheila era. So you can see there's a lot of replicas here from grave finds. So if you go to the museum here and you find something that you like, you can come and here and buy actual replicas. Very, very accurate. God knows I've looked at so many dead people Sheila pots that I can tell you that these are pretty darned accurate.
This is really cool stuff.
Yeah. And if, yes, there's a likelihood we'll be coming back here and we will be buying more pottery, because we need more pottery. Yeah. Yep. So this is, yeah, exactly. This is earthenware. You might notice it's dark, right? So it's actually, made out of a special kind of soil, right? So porcelain is white because it's made out of, a special kind of clay and bone. So that's what gives it that look. So if you're coming to Gyeongju, definitely come here and buy some of this beautiful pottery. 감사합니다. And yes, this, if you saw footage of me, a video of me with a cute kitten about this a little bit over under a year ago, this was where we were. And the kittens, you can tell that they really love the kitties here. There's kitty toys, kitty beds, and yeah. Oh, she's got her kiln in there. Wow. Watch out for that block in the middle of the road. Yeah. So springtime and autumn are the time to visit Korea, and I really do recommend coming to places like this where you can really immerse yourself in a different time in a different place. Nighttime here in Gyochon Village is actually the bestest time, and we will be doing a nighttime tour, probably a couple of different nighttime tours that will involve this village. It really feels like it's a haunted space. So in here, this used to also be a mansion. It is now a space for performing arts, traditional Korean performing arts, song, dance, traditional Korean style theater, which is of course not a lot like modern Western theater. But for the most part, these are only in full operation on the weekends or in the summer season when, tourism is in full swing because of the various school breaks. But, in a Joseon.
You got a question?
Yes.
It's not Korea, but do you know why there's no original wooden buildings in Tokyo? I imagine it's primarily through redevelopment.
Well, actually, no. No. Remember, there was an earthquake in 1922 that destroyed all of the Korean things they had stolen.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Tokyo. Yeah. So I mean, for one, there's redevelopment, but after in the early 1920s, there was a massive earthquake that set so much of Tokyo on fire. And afterwards, they didn't rebuild in the traditional fashion. Remember, Japan in that era was doing everything it could to modernize and westernize in order to stave off the colonial forces that were pressing into Asia at that point. So,
yes. We're not near Incheon.
We are not near Incheon. We are near Busan, actually. So this is in the south of Korea.
Opposite end.
Yeah, opposite end of the country.
Susan says hi.
Hi, Susan. Thank you for joining us.
Another restaurant.
Yeah, this is another Giwatib that is now a restaurant. We'll show you their menu. They've got some traditional dishes that are definitely very old dishes, and actually that don't have gochu in them. So yeah. Oh, good. They've got nice pictures. Oh, history is crazy. It really is. Okay, so we love eating here because they actually have traditional floor seating. Okay, the condottiero doesn't like that so much, but this is galbitim, a pretty historical dish. And then these are different kinds of bibimbap, which are also very historical. And of course, steak tartare is a big thing here. So we do like eating here. We'll probably come back and eat at some point. Yes, the Chay family special. So yeah, the Chay family is a noble family, actually, that has had a mansion in this village for, 700 years at least. We can turn right here, can't we? Oh, maybe we can't turn right here. Oh, you're right. But I just wanted to show them because it's pretty back here. There are so many lovely spaces in these villages, and we didn't show them the park, that sometimes you actually have to pause and see what there is.
Show them the park.
Oh, did you show them park? Okay, fine.
And I showed them this.
You did? Oh, well, I couldn't tell what you showed them. It's not my view, it's your view.
Your thing is obviously not working. I will block you.
Oh, I'm held for review comments or something like that? No.
It's trying to do an emoji, it looks like.
Ah.
But it's not working.
Ah.
The village is charming.
Yeah, this village is very charming. On the on the weekends, this place is packed. So as always, ooh, are they going to be? Are they beating the dough? They are not beating the dough. So this is a lovely little ice cream place. They actually make their own rice cakes here, and you can see in the picture there the rice cakes. And they often have a rice cake making demonstration here, so you can see them literally beating the hell out of the dough for the rice cakes. And they've taken a modern twist on it, and they've combined it with modern soft serve ice cream. But they do their own baking and rice cake making, so you can get a kind of combination of modern and traditional. But yeah, injolmi exactly, are the rice cakes. Injolmi, we love injolmi. This also formerly someone's Hanok is now a lovely little cafe. And they actually have very good tea here. Yeah, it's got a pretty lovely garden. And the Hanok behind it is actually, you can rent that one. And I do plan on doing that as part of a, what's the word I'm looking for, as part of a Creative Contessa guided tour of Korea. So stay tuned for the details on that. I'm still working them out. Video is blurry? Is it?
On our side.
Now on our side, it looks clear. If anyone else is having blurry video issues, please let us know.
Somebody asked, where are we?
We are in Gyeongju, the historic capital of the Shilla Empire, former capital of Korea in the first millennium. And this is Gyochon Village, one of the few historic Hanok villages that's left in Korea. But many of these historic homes have been bought and then repurposed and expanded upon to become things like restaurants. And this is sort of a contemporary Korean dining where they provide modern spins on traditional Korean dishes.
It's great music.
With definitely not traditional Korean music, with a nice gentle jazzy soundtrack for your enjoyment. Oh look, those are little kitty homes. Aren't they adorable? Oh my God.
Some kind of.
They really do. The Koreans have started taking care of their stray kitties. Okay.
To the river?
To the river. Oh, yes. So we're going to now take you to the river. The reason this is called Gyochon Village is because there was a bridge here 1,000 years ago until the Mongols burnt it down.
The Gyo part.
Yeah, which is the Gyo part. And there is now again a reconstruction of that amazing piece of architecture. And I honestly, I've traveled the world. I've lived in so many different places. And I would still say this is one of the most gorgeous pieces of architecture I've ever seen. Oh, we're not going to be able to see it from here, though.
Oh, yeah, I think it's to the right of the blockade, so just have to see.
I'm so sorry, everyone. They're doing construction in the stream, and we're not exactly certain what they're doing. So the big reveal isn't as lovely as it usually is. Look, a steel wall. How wonderful. Right. So here is the bridge of filial, non-filial piety. And this one dates to the 7th century, and it is based on archaeological excavations and depictions of other such bridges from this era in paintings, not cave paintings, wall murals, tomb paintings, that's the word I'm looking for. And it is called the bridge of filial, non-filial piety because of a funny little story that comes with it. Now, this could be an apocryphal tale. No one is really certain if it's true or not. But the story goes that the old king dies and his son ascends to the throne. Well, the queen mother is now fancy free, and she takes a lover on the other side of the river. And the king then, to facilitate her nighttime visits, her assignations, instead of taking a boat across to do so, he builds this bridge for her as a sign of his filial piety, his sonly duty, his filial duty to his lady mother, the queen. The non-piety part is that by doing so, he's being impious to the memory of his father, because of course there's an expectation that a widow should stay faithful to her deceased husband, even in death. Hence, bridge of filial, non-filial piety. Good son, say I. Yeah. At nighttime, and we will be doing a nighttime tour. At nighttime, this bridge is, its best view is actually at nighttime. It's lovely now, it's better at night. Also because there's no construction at night. In many K-dramas, they actually shoot scenes on this bridge, presenting it as though it's the royal palace. It's not, it's a bridge. It's a bridge. Yeah, so over here we have more examples of giwachib, of a different style of noble family's home. Now, this style in this kind of single construction manner is definitely a later style, because in earlier Joseon and in Korea, they were built more as complexes of groups of buildings, and we're going to get to see that very shortly. We're going to take you into Lord Chay's house, or as the sign strangely calls him, Rich Man Chay. Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you to the home of a true Joseon robber baron, except he wasn't actually a robber baron, because of their family philosophy was almost antithetical to robber baronism.
And as always, there's a second set of bathrooms right over here, just around the corner.
Yep.
Bathrooms everywhere.
Yeah, Korea is very big on lovely public restrooms that are clean, stocked with toilet paper 99% of the time, but always take some extra toilet paper with you just in case. You can get a side view. This one is actually being, I don't know, they're repurposing it or doing some kind of serious construction, maybe turning it into a restaurant, possibly.
It used to be rentable.
This one, you think?
No, it was.
Oh.
So then maybe they are just updating the interior.
Oh, maybe. Of course, one of the lovely things about a car-free neighborhood is the peace and quiet. This is a this one is a Hanok stay here. I have not actually seen this on any of the booking platforms that I've used, so I need to look it up. Dihyo is the name. Sorry, Dihyu is the name. And it is a really, this is definitely, until recently, was someone's home. And they just straight up lived here. So you can see there's been additions over time to Machen. Yep. Ah, we're connected. Okay, welcome back. Sorry if there was a disruption. So, yeah.
If you want the Wi-Fi password, it's Golden 5.
That's just the ID. It's free. I don't think you need a password. Yeah. So yeah, welcome to Korea. A lot of cities actually have free public Wi-Fi, which also means we could be. So the typical layout of a historic giwachib, these, and it's called a giwachib because of the tiles. Remember, the roof type is what really defines the wealth and value of a place. You're going to try to get over the wall. Yeah, because it's pretty amazing. Yeah, you can see inside this complex how there are different buildings and they're not connected. So there would be women's quarters and there would be men's quarters. And then there would be, those were sort of the sleeping, and also for the ladies, also where they did most of their domestic activities. For the men, they would also probably have a study, sort of library, where they would receive visitors. Yeah, right. Where they would receive visitors and or clients, people coming with petitions, because noblemen in Joseon were also nearly always government officials. Very rarely were they not. And so they had a position at court and a position in the government. And so people of less status would, of course, try to curry favor with them and try to get petitions submitted to the crown through them. This is also one of the, this is the Gyeongju Chay Family Academy. And so, okay, I was wrong. They've been here for 400 years, apparently. And so, you know, this academy is apparently part of their sense of noblesse oblige, and it's still functioning. I'm not certain exactly in what capacity, what exactly they teach here. But yeah, the Chay family is still a going concern. So the Chay family has 6 rules, and we'll look at the 6 rules when we get into their compound. But these, if all wealthy families lived by these rules, the world would certainly be a better place, without a doubt. Oh, those roof tiles definitely need some help. Oh, yeah. So just so you know, everyone, if your roof tiles start looking like they're a garden, you need to clean them and probably get new ones. Although terracotta is pretty sturdy, it's not eternal, and the plant life will eat it if you don't keep the plant life off of it.
In the Joseon era, what education is given to women?
None. Okay, that's not true. Okay, so in the Joseon era, there were schools specifically aimed at noble women, teaching them domestic crafts, the things they'll need to know in order to successfully run a household. But they are generally not taught to read and write in Chinese characters, which means they're basically cut out of a very large portion of learning. Because in Joseon era, even though Sejong the Great had created Hangul, the nobility didn't want that to be used because they didn't want an easy form of reading and writing to take away their power by making accessible literacy a thing. So women usually did not learn to read and write in Chinese. There are, of course, exceptions. There are plenty, and probably more than just a few. Many as now, back then, there were plenty of fathers who loved their daughters, their precious daughters, and would give them much more than was expected, would give them an excellent education, would allow them some freedom to live their lives, right? So,
Will be cats.
yeah.
Some back.
But yeah, in essence, women were generally not given very much of an education in Joseon. Yeah. Okay, so here we are at the 6 instructions. Yeah, here we are at the 6 instructions. Yeah. 감사합니다. Right, so the six rules of being a member of the Chay family. Apply for the state examination, the Gwago, but do not accept an official rank higher than Jinsa. And I actually think that might not just be a member of modesty, but a survival trick, because if you know anything about Joseon, the history of Korea in the Joseon era, the second you reached a certain rank of status in the court, your head was likely to end up on a pike at some point. So yeah, then it says, return to society any possessions worth more than 10,000 sok, which is 1,440 tons of rice. So remember, rice was a commodity, the foundational substance of society back then. So your wealth is often measured back then in rice. But what's interesting to me about that is it says once you've reached a certain level of wealth, I think this probably is better translated as assets. If your assets reach 10,000 sok, anything beyond that, you should be turning back to society. Yeah. Then it also, another rule, in times of famine, never procure more farmland. So in other words, don't take advantage of this poor situation of broke farmers to, what's the word I'm looking for when you, don't be a venture capitalist and snap up farmland. Okay, you met with me yesterday. Guess my nationality. I'm Asian. My country is colonized by Spain and maybe America and Japan. Our language has borrowed words from Spanish and Latin. The Philippines, I'm going to go with. Let me know if I'm right. And also, thank you for returning. It was lovely to have you in the chat yesterday, and I'm really glad you came back. It was cat with something, right? Cat.
The cats will be cats.
The cats will be cats, right? Yeah. Right, you're back. Thank you, Cats Will Be Cats, for coming back. Another great thing is hospitality. Receive travelers as well as visiting guests with warm hospitality. And remember, travelers were often likely to not be the best of the best. And so this is really saying that even if they're not noble guests, you should still treat them well, which,
Right.
Wow.
She said you're right.
Oh, yay! Never let anyone within 100 li, which is about a 40-kilometer radius, starve to death. Just imagine if wealthy people this day took that approach to their lives. This is an odd one, though. Daughters-in-law should wear cotton clothes for no less than 3 years. I haven't had a friend look at the original, well, actually, but I probably have to look at the original Chinese characters for the rules to find out if what they mean is a new daughter-in-law, when she joins the family, she has to dress modestly basically for those first 3 years, which would actually make sense because the Chay family, if you look, this is a massive complex compared to the size of the things we've seen thus far. And, you know, anyone marrying into this family is possibly not going to be as wealthy as the family. And so the idea is that they shouldn't join this family just in order to take advantage of the wealth and to start showing off the wealth. So I have a feeling it might be a question of maintaining modesty. These are stables, by the way, over here. Yeah, this is where animals would have been kept at night. Cows, horses, pigs, goats, sheep, not so much. They don't really have sheep here very much. And this is also a barn for storing grains and other goods. Yeah. So let's go back into the women's quarters. The women's quarters are often in a sort of more remote corner. Oh, wow. It's an old bobby pin that's been here for God knows how long. I thought it looked like an awl, or like a bodkin. Okay.
Yep.
So one thing you will notice is that this is a rich person's home, but it's very simple. It isn't painted brightly. It isn't ornate. And it's not supposed to be, because in the Joseon era, everything was about modesty. Right. So, you know, you weren't supposed to splash out and look like you were a gilded king from a foreign land. So even the royal palaces, even though they're painted brightly in a ritual set of colors, they're still relatively simple. And there isn't very much on the inside, right? They don't have lots and lots of belongings. Spaces are relatively minimalist and neatly kept. Furnishings are elegant, but not gaudy. So for instance, this chest, right? I need a chest like this for my historical garments, actually. You know, this is an expensive piece of furniture. It's finely crafted. It has a, you know, an interesting, visually interesting lock, but you'll notice it's not gilt, it's not painted, it's just simple. And that's very Joseon, because in the Joseon era, Neo-Confucianism is the state philosophy. It's hard to call it a religion because it's not really practiced like that here, but it is a state philosophy. So kinds of spaces I love because you can open up those windows there, and because they completely open up, right? They open up entirely so that you can then get a wonderful cross breeze going, and those two. So you can actually then get this kind of wraparound effect of basically, you know, natural air conditioning. And, you know, these are shoes off spaces, but these are also, you don't get to go in them spaces because this is, you're not allowed to go on them. But, you know, you would actually sit on the floor here, possibly on a cushion or not. And ladies would sit here and embroider. They would engage in other kinds of handcrafts, of sewing handcrafts. And just behind there is a garden. It's a really lovely garden, right? And there are lots of caretakers here. I don't know if they're volunteers or not. They might be. But yeah, these are the women's quarters. And women and men in Joseon didn't really interact very much. Now, you're not getting to see it at its flashiest and newest. Obviously, this building has settled into itself. And we're going to show you how they're tracking the amount of settling that is happening to these historic homes. Because, of course, there's a concern that they might be settling a not good amount. Oh, and here we've got them right here, actually. I think one of them already broke. I've also seen these used in castles in Germany. So you see these glass plates with putty holding them in place. The glass will break when this settles, and then they can tell what's happening and they can track it. So they've got a panel on like each side of these columns, so they can really see if it's settling to one side. And then if they need to, they'll take action. What that action would be? Well, these buildings are actually more modular than you would expect. The Japanese proved that when they stole a lot of them and took them back to Tokyo at the end of the Joseon era. Yeah, after the Joseon era had basically ended. So yeah. Okay. Oh, and here behind this brick wall, now the brick wall is modern. this brick wall is, but they're actively still making things here. Those are tenjang pots and gochujang pots, not kimchi. That is not kimchi. Yeah. I love how Thailand in the late mid 1800s implemented Western clothing. I know for a fact that's why it's not colonized. Thailand had the Kingdom of Siam actually played a really clever political game to keep itself from getting colonized. But Rama V was also a massive proponent of Western culture. He really loved all things Western. He actually took a tour of the West, and a friend of mine is a choreographer and performance arts specialist in Thailand, and he actually put on a series of acts from operas that Rama V saw while he was in Europe. And they did this as a way to connect, the past to the present. To the garden. Yeah. So we'll go to one of the gardens now. And so this space up here that you see, it is likely that the lord of the house would have sat there and enjoyed tea and would have received guests in pleasant weather. Like today, for instance. And you'll see the eaves. I know some of you have had this lecture from me before, but I'll give it to you again. You see the eaves of the Hanok. So Hanok is like the ultimate in sustainable construction. It is, these angles are very specifically intended so that in the winter, the angle of the sun hits the walls as much as possible to heat the space, keep the space warm. But in the summer, it minimizes the amount that the sun is hitting the inside, keeping the space cool. You'll notice the sun's not hitting the space, right? So that means that keeps these buildings cooler in the summer, warmer in the winter. And also there's a circulatory effect that's created because of the slant of the roof and because of the way they built in aeration at the top, that it prevents black mold from forming. So it also creates a convectional effect so that the temperature inside the space is a lot more even than it has any right to be. Also, these are ondol spaces. So I'm trying to see if I can find the furnace. So these buildings have floor heating. Now you can tell where they don't. For instance, that part is not an ondol floor. There is no heated space. But if you look under the floor rather, and you see that it's filled in, then it's an ondol floor, which is the Korean word for floor heating. So Koreans have had floor heating for 2,000 years. They've had it for as long as the Romans had it, and they never lost it, unlike the West where we lost that technology somehow. So, and in fact, these are definitely still heated with, how do I know these are still heated by actual floor heating? Well, here's a chimney coming out from the furnace, and they've got, cords of wood stacked everywhere. In fact, the furnace might be back here. No, just more. Yeah. Here we go. Here are the furnaces. Look, you can actually see them, and they're definitely still used. So you actually build a fire here, and then the chimney causes a draft. So it actually pulls the hot air through the entire spaces under the floor, and there's actually causeways that are built under there. So it's not just randomly filling the space. It's an intentional flow, and then it pulls it out that way. So it makes sure that the entire space is full. And you'll notice it's angled away from the building, and the chimney goes really, really high so that there's no smoke at breathing level. Yeah.
Say, oh, my cabbages.
Oh, my cabbages. Why did I say that?
Because somebody said that the jugs look like the perfume bottles from Avatar: The Last.
Oh, okay. I will pretend I know what that means. So here we are in one of the gardens of this property. And it is entirely possible that, the ladies, because here's the thing, in Joseon, noble women were not really allowed out very often of their estate. So this was sort of the range of their motion. And so absolutely, the ladies of the house, the wives and the daughters and the mothers-in-law would come out here and perambulate about. And this garden is not in the best shape it's ever been, but it's in a pretty similar shape in terms of kind of the basic features of what it would have had even in the Joseon era. And this in fact is the gate from the ladies' quarters, right? This actually accesses the ladies' quarters. So they would come here. They would not have to go through the main property. Hanoks look like traditional Japanese houses too. Yeah, there's a when you have the same kind of building materials and you have the same kind of climate conditions, there's often a lot of similarities. But unlike traditional Japanese homes, which often have paper, these do not have paper walls. They are wattle and daub, actually. So they're like proper half timber, where you've got massive wood framing, and then it's filled with a woven mat of like hazel branches, and then you have the daub, which is this mud mixture, also has like urine and horse manure in it and whatnot. And then that is plastered over and painted. So actually this wall has been recently added on, so you can get an idea of how these buildings looked when they were new, because this is very new and this part is new. And you know, over time though, the wood darkens. Like they don't make the wood this dark. It just gets this dark on its own. Yeah, it just gets this dark on its own.
Takeda's back.
Takeda, thank you for joining us again. I'm hoping you're enjoying this experience. Yeah, if you've ever been in a building with floor heating, you never want to go back to any other kind of heating at all. Oh, they were working in there today. Yeah, so that's I think that's the shrine. That's the yeah, that's the family shrine. Oh, so we can walk up to it anyway. So this is the family shrine. Ancestor worship, as in many parts of Asia, is still a component of Korean society and absolutely was a massive part of Korean society in the Joseon era. And so a wealthy family like this would have a very large shrine where sometimes the portraits of their ancestors would be enshrined in there. There would be a shrine tablet. And then there are certain times of year when one performs the rites to the family, ancestral rites. Right. And actually, so this is interesting. On the back wall, you can actually see a gate leading out. So, you know, they always have sort of multiple gates. So you're not trapped in if something goes really bad, but there's more garden back there. And that's not accessible to us, but presumably that was part of the Chay family's property. Probably isn't anymore, but it was. So any questions about the family, you know, a house like this, house is the wrong word, an estate like this would have been a bustling microeconomy. There would have been servants of various levels doing, you know, making a lot of the goods themselves. A lot of the, you know, they would have been making their own tenjang, their own kinds of kimchi. They would have been producing their own noodles. There would have been, and I don't know where the kitchens are actually. I don't think we ever found the kitchens, did we? Let's see if we can find the kitchens. Yeah, let's find kitchens. Try not to fall. Let's go see if we can find the kitchens.
So many.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like I met so many friends and stuff.
Oh, cute Korean children. Camera away. Oh, so cute. Oh, yeah. Right, that's locked. Locked against us. Could well be. Yeah, so even noble Korean women, even queens, knew how to make food. They knew how to cook. They knew how to make a lot of the basics, but they also knew how to make really... No, I can't. I cannot. They also knew how to make very elegant things like rice cakes. And they would actually make them for the men in their family. Especially for the menfolk in their family, because the idea of the Korean mama taking care of her son, no matter what his rank is and no matter what her rank is, that's not a new concept. So, you know, even noble women would have been occasionally in the kitchen preparing special things, not sort of the daily everyday food, but special items.
Chinese architecture very different, more Western, and probably considered maximalist.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, maximalist for certain. Actually, it's funny. I was thinking that in my head as we're walking through when I used the word minimalist. I had an image of the Forbidden City as it looked like before the Maoist revolution. What happened?
Oh, I accidentally shoved the comment in the stream, which I didn't mean to do.
Oh, so you can see here, you know, we talk about sophisticated things like sewage and drainage. What's happening?
The restream has a weird thing where I can
Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so we have here, evidence of drainage systems, and they're actually, they're throughout Gyeongju historical Shila, which was called Sorabul back then, or Kumsong, actually had a pretty sophisticated system of drainage. Now that system got less sophisticated in Joseon, interestingly, but they still did understand about the need to create flow because monsoons are a real thing here. Now this courtyard doesn't look like it has so much of the slope that you would expect. That's probably because it's worn down, it's worn away over the centuries. Well, you can still see it, actually, that's not true. You can see it. So you'll notice if you look at the stones over there, you can actually see that on the right side, they're more narrow and they get wider and wider and wider as they move to the left. And that's intentional because they're trying to make sure that water will flow out and not just create a great big puddle. And the same idea, the same engineering is also to be found in the Korean royal palaces in Seoul on a much grander scale, but also with paved. This is not paved, and it probably wasn't paved, even in the Joseon era. Okay, well, are there any questions? If you just want to do one final sweep, any questions about the Lord Chay's amazing, still standing estate?
Yes, this is live still right now.
Yep, we are still live. Hello.
Jason.
Hello, Jason. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, are there any questions about this estate before we move on to other parts of Gyochon Maeul? Okay. Start walking anyway. So obviously, many parts have been modernized, and I expect there were buildings there that probably aren't there anymore. I mean, these homes were lived in Gyeochon Maeul. These homes were lived in, as I said, in some cases until 10 years ago. And I think this one is still partially lived in because this building over here is a new addition. And I think it probably replaced something that was there before because the stone part is not very new. But I'm pretty certain that members of the Chay family do in fact still live here. But Yungnam University actually helps tend to this and helps keep it in good condition with their experts, because we have a lot of experts now in historical Korean architecture. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, leaving, they're on the right, we're good. Yeah. Leaving Lord Chay's estate.
Isn't this place like a one?
Oh, the Bopju, yeah, right. Oh, we didn't come down this lane, did we? Or did we? Right, yeah, we're gonna go to the Bopju place. Trying desperately not to include children in my footage where I can, but sometimes they are free radicals. It is hard to avoid them. Okay, this is a Bopju place. Bopju is a kind of alcohol. And they've been making bopju here for quite a while. And you can see the bopju making process here. You can't see the bopju making process here. So, from adding rice and I think that's the word I'm looking for, soybean, ground soybeans. Yeah. And then you make a mash, and then it's made into these cakes, and then the cakes are dried, fermented and dried, right? And then it's rehydrated, and it's allowed to further,
You wet the dry.
Yeah, you wet the dry, exactly.
Dry the wets.
Dry the wets, let it ferment, right? And then, after a while, eventually you get bopju, which looks like that. It has kind of a lightly golden color. And that's very heavily associated with Gyeongju. It's pretty decent. It's good with food. It's good with food. And if you buy it here, you just buy it back here in the shop. And it comes in these neat bottles. We love the bopju bottles. And you get your own bopju cup with it. So you can get your bopju set. Now, of course, you're never supposed to drink alcohol in an empty stomach in either modern Korean society nor historical. So you should always have yummy, yummy nibblies with it. Those have been in the case for a long time, so long that they might count as actually historical. But if you come here and you can take a look at the beautiful premises, I mean, you almost have to buy bopju just so that you can enjoy something that was made in a place this beautiful. right? And you can see the bopju over there in the bopju jars fermenting away happily. All those microbiota just having a little bopju party.
Actually,
Yeah, the lids are starting. The lids start coming to life. You know your bopju is ready. Yeah. Any questions about bopju? And I don't know how old bopju, how long people have been making the bopju, but it's the technique and the ingredients are certainly historic enough. Oh well, here's the so this claims that it's got a very old residence. The first bopju was first brewed by Chay during the reign of King Sukjong, who was a 16th century king, I think. Ever since then, the brewage, well, that's an interesting choice, of the wine was passed down to through the head residents of the Gyeongju Chay clan. So apparently, the Gyeongju Chay clan was known for Gyeongju kitty, right there. He's the one who wants to pretend he doesn't want to be pet, but does. Kitty, meow, meow, meow. Kitty, let me pet you. Yeah, meow. No, don't run away. I want to worship you. Oh.
ran away by lightly stepping.
Right. Damn it. Anyway, it looks like the Chay clan was actually in charge of bopju production. Probably one good way to make sure you're wealthy is make alcohol. I guess that is something American robber barons learned. Well, to the bridge of... Yeah, let's actually take them across the bridge. So any questions thus far? Obviously, these are all authentic Joseon era cars, and you're probably asking why there are so many here, because, well, people work here, but don't. Yeah, the kitty was pretty adorable. He's pretty sassy. He did. He was mewing. He's a tease. He mewed at us, like
Come and pet me.
he made eye contact and mewed at me, and then laid down 3 inches beyond my reach, as though it were a test of devotion, whether I would get myself dirty by getting in my pink mochi hanbok in the dirt to pet him. I didn't, in case you're wondering. It was tempting, but I resisted. Oh, the Confucian Academy.
It's adorable.
We need to go into the Confucian Academy.
Yeah, there's cats everywhere, Susan.
Oh yeah, no, this Gyeongju, if you like cats, Gyeongju is a place to be.
Do we want to cross the bridge first?
Okay. Okay, viewer, Confucian Academy first, which is this massive complex off to our left, or crossing, and we should probably end by crossing the bridge of filial, non-filial piety, right?
I was thinking we'd go through the forest and over to the Chongdae.
Tomsonde?
Keep watching.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, onward then. So, to the bridge of filial, non-filial piety. Yeah. Yeah, the peace and quiet of a historic Joseon Hanok village is something not to be undervalued.
It's an older company.
Yeah, Hyundai, but it's yeah, Hyundai.
Nintendo is like
Right. They've been around for a while.
like 100+ years.
The doors are not open.
But obviously, they weren't making video games back then.
No, they made dice, right? Or cards, playing cards. Was it playing cards? Nintendo? I think it was playing cards. It was either playing cards or dice. It was something. It was one of those two things,
Something made of wood.
as I recall. Peek inside. Another Giwa-tib, as they were called.
Here today?
It's about, for those of you on the 17th century scale of 80 degrees, it's about 27 or 26 degrees centigrade.
Rented.
Oh, right. So for the people who might be traveling here on a more practical level, you have these authentic Joseon era electric carts that you can rent and use to get around the main tourist areas. It's way easier than trying to drive around. You can't do it. Gosh, they're everywhere. Okay. So over there, those ugly looking fences and the tarps, those are actually archaeological excavations. They are heavily excavating still Gyeongju, and they have been almost for 40 years at this point, really.
You're right. Somebody else said cards.
Cards. Oh, thank you. Yes.
I wish we could show you just how cute these kids are.
Oh, gosh. Korean children are the cutest. Okay. Okay, we can safely show them the bridge now.
Oh,
So this is the bridge of filial, 9 filial piety, also called Wolgyo, which means crescent moon bridge, because the moon was was very tied in with the symbolism of the Shilla dynasty. And here we have our first bit of archaeology. Actually, well, first bit, I don't know. First bit of Shilla archaeology, I guess. This column, as you see, was excavated from the riverbed.
as she pushes it over.
And also the lion also. So basically from here up, they excavated from the riverbed. And so that's why they've made replicas of for the other 3 based on this original. I think it's pretty cool that they put the original back out. Yeah. And so you have the ramp, which presumably would have only been utilized.
Traffic came through here with carts.
Yeah,
and
with
stuff.
carts. Well, I was going to say carts, but you wouldn't want to walk on the area where the carts were because yes, where the horses poop. Right. Oh, right. So actually, I don't know much about public restrooms, but they had chamber pots for certain. Was a thing that they had.
So, yep, cats, you're right. Chamber pots.
Yep. So here, as we should show them the center now. The center, yeah. So you get the full vanishing effect. This is, I have to say, one of my favorite spaces in the world. It is peaceful, it's cool, even in the hottest days, and we have been here on the hottest days. It is very comfortable, and it is oh so lovely. Yeah, and you get this beautiful this gorgeous cross breeze. Right, so you can't really see, that's the storage house for the museum. You can't actually see the museum really from here. We have to go further down.
It's
We can show them the excavations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the Gyeongju National Museum, most of the major cities in Korea have a national museum, they call it, which is funny because it's confusing because the city is not a nation. But anyway, that's just the linguist in me. So Gyeongju National Museum focuses really heavily on its Shilla heritage, of course, because most of the archaeology from here is from Shilla, not from Joseon.
So the bridge reminds her of them of the wooden steel bridges in China and North Vietnam, especially the Red Country.
Right. So here, this is actually the wall of the royal fortress that Wolsong Fortress here. That was basically this entire crescent that's off to the left, and that's a rammed earth wall that was built during the Shilla era, and they've been excavating it bit by bit, so you can actually see how destructive archaeology is, because they will rebuild it, but it won't be actually the original Shilla era wall anymore. It's the wall of Theseus. It's like Theseus's ship. So that is the Gyeongju National Museum. The sort of the Giwa Tib, the tiled roofs over there. That is the Gyeongju National Museum, and it really is. It's like it's walking into one of the biggest collections of gold jewelry and pottery in the world, probably, at least per square foot. So we were doing finger loop braiding in here earlier today, and they told us we couldn't do that, which is very frustrating. But oh well, there it is. Yeah, so this is the bridge of filial, non-filial piety. There were curfews in cities like this, and well, pretty much every city. And so the bridge would have closed down at night, and there would have been guards. And you can actually go up into the guardhouses. Do we want to try to go up?
Sure. As long as the viewers will forgive me.
Yeah. Okay. So these two tower houses you can actually go into. And they have various displays. Unfortunately, they have not opened the windows in them, but you'll get to see what life would have been like for who is.
Behind it. Me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's what we call costume Shilla. So there are hanbok rental places here in Gyeongju, and some of them actually have, well, she's got a completely Korea style. So they offer what we call costume hanbok. So it's not really authentic, but it's kind of vaguely in the shape of. So you can either do Joseon costume hanbok, or Sheila costume hanbok. But what she was wearing definitely was K-drama hanbok. Okay, so here is the interior of these amazing tower houses. And unfortunately, I feel like this is a completely missed opportunity. They do not open these windows. Of course, most Korean sites come with digital experiences that try to animate, reinvigorate past life by actually taking extant murals and art and actually animating it. So there's the bridge, people crossing. Sheila was a much more, the idea is that, you know, Sheila was absolutely highly interconnected with the western part of Asia and even Europe, curiously. Sheila was a much more equitable society. Men and women were equals. So it was not like Joseon at all, at all, in fact. And Sheila was, of course, Buddhist. Buddhism was very much the state religion here, and not even a little bit Confucian.
I'm sorry again.
Sorry. Oh, we're about to go. Oh, we're about to go down the scary stairs of death. Hopefully, you will not witness any actual deaths happening here today. These rails are new. These handrails are new. They didn't used to be there. I guess no one thought they could actually use the actual handrail here. Okay. So heading now back through. At nighttime, this bridge is, you know, you can see these lamps up above. They've actually, they're modern electric lights, but they're covered in these beautiful historical style lamp covers, basically. And yeah, so it creates a really beautiful effect. Remember to always look up when you travel, my friends. Yeah. The visual effect is just stunning. This morning we had a pheasant.
So cats, it's not the wooden stairs being fragile I was worried about. It's more my head.
Yeah, the stairs are fine. The stairs aren't fragile. They built this.
Solid stairs.
They built this thing to last 1,000 years as long as the Mongols don't come back and burn it again. Because that's what happened to the original one. The original was burnt up by the Mongols in the 13th century when they burnt the rest of the place down.
Show. Oh, nope, that's the wrong way. How do I turn it around?
Turn what around?
Oh, so it usually does a.
Oh.
I can make it spin around.
Oh, I don't.
Show me.
You'll have to practice that again.
Yeah.
It's been too long since you've done gimbal work. Now, normally, here we'll show them the view of the village. Normally from here, you have one of the best views of the village. You have a partially okay view, but the metal wall is really just getting in the way there.
So is the dozer.
So is the toaster, yeah.
It's actually really hard to see. The video doesn't. This format just does not.
Yeah, the vertical does not lend itself well to distance. You're right. So many K-dramas have been filmed here. If you've any, even modern ones that are, you know, set in some kind of time traveling or alternate dimension kind of situation, like Eternal Monarch has scenes filmed here. It's presented as though it's the part of the royal palace in Busan. There is no royal palace in Busan, by the way. Not in this timeline. Okay, so now we are going to take you to the Confucian Academy, which is still functioning as an academy and has been here since the 15th century, although most of the buildings that are there now have been rebuilt because every so often someone invades Korea and sets it on fire. Often it's the Japanese, then the Mongols had already come, so it wasn't their fault this time, and then the Qing. So both the Japanese and the Qing have at times set Korea on fire. I mean, everything's made out of wood. It's not exactly challenging, I guess, but still, that means that most buildings do not predate the 16th century or do not predate the 17th century. Most of them were rebuilt after the 17th century. Now, Confucian or Joseon architecture was extremely conservative. Oh, kitty, murmurs, murmur. Kitty, let me pet you. Let me pet you. Nope. Nope. That is not a socialized kitty. Oh, well, I'm missing my babies. Okay. So Joseon architecture was extremely conservative in that if something burnt down, which it would invariably, they would rebuild it exactly as it was before. And they would have records that would allow them to do that. The record keeping in the various kingdoms of Korea was extremely good. And they would keep sketches of diagrams of the layout of the palaces. It's how the Korea is actually able to rebuild so many of historic palaces now, because back in the 18th century, all these records were made of how things looked. It's also how they can tell what the Japanese changed during the Japanese occupation. So over there, that roof line, as you can see, is the Confucian Academy. And, Neo-Confucianism has its virtues and it has its vices. I will freely admit that. The part about women being subordinate and subjugated at the bottom of the totem is pretty garbage.
You just got like 40 comments.
Oh, hey, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this. If you'd like to learn more about the history of misogyny, just check out my channel. No, I don't often address the topic. I only address it when it's appropriate. Unfortunately, if you're studying medieval history, it's often a topic. Right. So here is the layout of the academy. Right. This is the main hall. And this is another main lecture hall. And then most of these are actually dorms, right? So the students would live here basically for the most part. Yeah. So Gyeongju is the name of this institution. And if you just want to like do some sweeps while I give them some facts.
Gyeongju is general name for.
Yeah, is the general name for a public institution. So this was a public school.
This is the Gyeongju.
Yeah.
Gyeongju.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was, yeah, Gyeongju is, yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Gyeongju is the name for a public school, actually from the Goryeo and Joseon dynasties, right? So apparently there has been an educational institution of some kind here since the Shilla dynasty. Not exactly in this format necessarily, and certainly not teaching not teaching Confucian ideals not in the Shilla dynasty anyway. So this well is actually another piece of Shilla architecture. This actually dates to the Shilla period, to the 7th century. So according to legend, this site was the royal residence of Princess Yoseok, who was the daughter of King Muyeol. After being widowed in 655, she gave birth to a son out of wedlock, which happens, by a monk, which also happens. And the son whose name was Solchong. Goodness, sorry, I'm going to pause while they scream at each other as loudly as possible. They're arguing about which way to go. Oh my goodness. Wow, that's a lot of shouting for no reason. Okay, anyway, the princess gave birth to a son out of wedlock with this monk, and he apparently became a renowned scholar. And so it is said that he became a renowned scholar, such a great scholar, after drinking the water out of this well. So it became known as the water of cleverness and brightness. It sounds way better in ancient Korean or in Chinese characters. Because of that, a national academy, perhaps apocryphal tale, maybe because of that, an academy was founded on this site around this well of cleverness and brightness. So yeah, you want to go ahead and show them some more stuff? Yep. And apparently, ever since then, as far as records can tell, there has been a public institution of learning on this site. Again, not these buildings, not exactly in this layout. But something. So that kind of continuity, that's hard to come by where I grew up.
Hello, Lupton. Lupton Designs.
Lawton, thank you for joining us. Welcome. So here you're going to see one of the lecture halls, and you can tell that it's still used because there's actual equipment scattered about. So again, you've got the Hanok style architecture, which creates a very specific kind of cooling and or heating depending on the season. Right? And because of the very high, you can see the gabled ceilings in here. So any heat that does form will naturally rise into that space, keeping the space down here cool. And of course, again, you've got the windows, which can open and create this amazing cross breeze. And once again, the angle of the eaves is what keeps it cool in the summer, because the sun does not heat this space, does not hit this space at all, or warm in the winter, because then the angle allows the heat to actually get here where you want it. Yep.
See the writing desks behind this
Yeah.
screen?
Oh, right. So they actually still learn in a traditional style with desks on the floor, sitting on the floor. And so, yeah, you can also see the podiums and the whiteboards, still very much a utilized space. Yeah, and all the signboards generally represent a moment of importance in the history of the site of the building, and there are certainly a lot of signboards up there. There's actually a display about those historic signboards at the Gyeongju Palace Museum, or that might have been a special exhibit. Oh, I think I know why there's so much shouting. Nope, we do not. I will just say that Korea has gotten a lot better about actually taking care of people. Yes. Taking care of people with special needs. Right. Okay. So as I said, these are all dormitories. And, you know, possibly some of the teachers will actually reside here when school is in session. And I think this is the winter lecture hall. So I think this is actually an ondol space.
Makes sense.
Yep.
No matter how good the
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's, yeah. Yeah, I think if I read on the sign correctly, this is the winter lecture hall. And yeah, you can actually see the evidence of fire on the stones here. Yeah. So if you look at these massive foundational stones for this hall, you can see how many of them are stained black. That's not a natural artifact of time. That's an artifact of fire. And you can see some of them have actually like cracked and peeled. Yeah, some people don't realize that stone will burn eventually.
But Kat wants to know when you'll do a European live stream.
Oh, from Europe? God, that'd be great. Yeah, I would love to get to Europe. I haven't, you know, I lived in Germany for 12 years. And I used to get back to Europe a couple of times a year. And these last 2 years, I just haven't managed it somehow. Oh, right. But everyone knows since Brexit, that's not Europe. Okay. So I just wanted to give you this kind of sweep because it's a bit like stepping back in time. You know, there's almost nothing modern in view. Yeah, almost.
You say as I sweep across the land.
Right, it's just almost nothing modern in view.
Kat's favorite period is 18th century.
Yeah, it's not my favorite period for a lot of reasons. It's a really ugly period culturally and historically. It's really messy in Europe, extra messy, which says something. I mean, I'm pretty much a lover of all kinds of fashions, but the interior design style of Rococo isn't my favorite. It doesn't speak to me the most, I will say. But that's absolutely a matter of personal taste.
When you stream in France, they hope you wear a robe a la France.
À la française, yeah, I bet you do. Normally, when I'm in Europe, I wear medieval European clothing. We spent a day in Rouen, and I dressed the way Jeanne d'Arc would have when she was not in armor, in harness, or otherwise wearing arming garments.
To the legendary forest.
Oh, and I've spent lots of time, and I have lots of Florence content. Lots of content of me in Florence, of us in Florence, in 15th century Florentine clothing. So yeah, they actually I already have lots of. I just realized from 2 years ago when we were in Florence, we did, and before that, I've done whole walking tours in Florence in authentic clothing. The Palazzo Davanzati. If you want to see what a medieval Italian mansion looked like, a palazzo, as they're called in Italian, I've got a whole tour of the Palazzo Davanzati in appropriate clothing. So I have done tours now that I think about it, and I've got lots of walking footage of Florence already published. Okay, we are now entering what is called the mystical forest. There are not many stands of old growth left in Korea. Most of it, went up in flames during the Korean War. So this is one of the few stands of old growth. And there are trees in here that are probably 1,000 years old. Not many of them. I'll show you the 1,000-year-old trees. You'll know they're 1,000 years old. They don't look young. Yeah. So Gyeongju is famous for its tumuli, for its hill graves. We passed by some of them yesterday. We're now approaching another one that has its ancestral worship altar, and also has a marker. The marker is new. The altar is not necessarily as new as the marker is.
Renaissance makeup is creepy.
Oh, I don't do makeup. Also in the 15th century, they didn't really do much in the way of makeup. Although some women did, and there is a preacher talking about the dangers of, not a preacher, a doctor actually talking about the medical dangers of women using the kind of makeup they wore, which was lead-based. And even this doctor realized it wasn't good for them. Yeah. So
Same thing.
is it? Oh, right. So this is the tomb of King Maeul, and apparently it dates to the 5th century BC. So apparently he died in 402. Remember, I told you they have really amazing records from this era. And he's actually the nephew of the first ruler, Sheila ruler from the Kim clan. If any of you watch K-dramas, you've probably heard about the Andong Kim. Yeah, unfortunately, they never really they never give the details about the lives of these people. And it can be very hard to find. They don't talk about interesting things that may have happened here. They just say, so-and-so is buried here. They lived from here to here. They were so-and-so's son, because that matters. And then they'll talk about the thing in a very obvious way. So here they'll say, it's a round mound of about so many meters tall, and it has a stone base, and you're like, yeah, I can see the stone base. Actually, it's poking through. But they never, ever really provide interesting details that bring these spaces to life. It's one of my major and only complaints, honestly, about the historical side of Korea, is that they haven't yet awakened to the fact that we can kind of vaguely tell how tall something is with our eyes. We'd rather know about what happened there, about the people who lived there, what was daily life like. How did they end up here? What kind of ceremony was involved in interring them? Those kinds of details should be on those signs. I mean, yes, it's nice to know who's there, but then tell me about him or her. Tell me about their lives. So this is a double tomb, a double hump over there. No doubt, originally it was much more evenly rounded than that. It's worn down over time. Some of these had worn down quite a bit and have been rebuilt because people didn't realize they were tombs, and they were just taking dirt and materials from them to build their own homes, or people were using them as picnic spots and wearing them down. So that has now stopped, thankfully. All of that has stopped.
There wasn't more ghosts in people's houses.
It is actually, I don't know. There's probably, there might be a reason that Koreans are so afraid of ghosts. And it's because they keep digging up people's tombs, bringing their belongings back to their homes, and getting followed. Look at the view of the Confucian Academy through the stand of those wonderful spindly trees.
Do we want to try and make our way over to the theme park and go inside the theme? Susan's asking if we going in.
Oh yeah, yeah, we can do that now. Absolutely, why not? We're live. We might as well. And then after that, we're going to eat breakfast, which for us will be, which for normal people would be considered lunch. Okay, we're now going to head to one of the concentrations of royal tombs, which has been turned into a lovely park. But one of the wonderful things about it, let me get ahead of you. I'll walk backwards. One of the wonderful things about it is that you can actually go into the tomb because they excavated it and then they reconstructed it. And they reconstructed it in such a way that you can see exactly the positions of all the items that they excavated. And this tomb was a treasure trove of, oh my God, amazing pieces. There's also some textiles, which, as many of you know, don't survive. Did you catch a tree with your cup? So yeah, we're going to go inside the tomb, the Heavenly Horse Tomb. So stay with us. It'll take us about 5 minutes to walk over there, but we'll pass lots of beautiful things along the way. So don't worry, I'm not going to abandon you all. Any questions thus far? So
Kat said that Filipino dress was probably inspired by Renaissance dresses from the arrival of Michu.
oh yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. Oh yeah, Filipino history is very interesting because of the way it is at sort of, you know, the shipping crossroads. Even before the Spaniards came along, you know, trade was a thriving, flourishing activity in Asia. And so you had Arab traders, and you had Japanese traders, Chinese traders, of course, pirates of all different types, Korean traders even, you know, it's a very interconnected world. And we're going to experience some of that interconnectivity in this tomb firsthand. I think you all are going to be very fascinated by what we have to share with you. I just love this space so much.
Susan does too. The park is lovely.
At nighttime, all of these trees are illuminated in such a way as to definitely make them seem like ghost trees. Oh, someone lost their bouquet. Ooh, hopefully that's not a sign of some sad thing that happened, a proposal gone wrong, maybe. Ooh, ooh.
Take it the bad.
Yeah, in the autumn. Oh my God! So these lacy, what they're called rainbow trees in Korean, but Japanese maples in the U.S. we call them. They turn an amazing rainbow of colors in the autumn. So spring and autumn are the best times to be in Gyeongju. In the spring, if you come here at the end of March, you've got cherry blossoms for days, and then if you come sort of at the end of October, then you've got the rainbow of the season. So here on the left, we have some of our very, very old trees, and you can tell they're very, very old. They're not doing so well. In fact, yeah, that poor tree. Oof. These they think some of these might be 1,000 years old, which in Korea is quite a feat. You know, the Mongols came here in the 13th century, and as a sign of what would happen if they didn't accept their offer of lordship, they burnt everything down. So.
But then you just did the thing you said you'd do if we don't do the thing.
Yeah. Well, they were resisting. The Goryeo dynasty was resisting. And so the Mongols said, well, here's what happens if you resist. Let me show you firsthand. And then thereafter, it came to be that many queens of Goryeo were Mongolian.
Yes, please do subscribe.
Yes, please do subscribe. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Okay, so here is, oh, are we not supposed to go in?
Oh, we can go in.
Oh, beware of native bees. Oh, I was looking at the warning signs. Beware of native bees, which I guess is different than foreign bees. We don't have to worry about foreign bees here. So here is a stela, and you see these all over the places. And I actually, do you remember what this stela was?
Do not. Was it to mark the place where the one who descended?
Yes, so there's a lot of excuse me. There's so many different stela all over the place. No, I don't think we ever figured out what this stela was. Right. So these kinds of spaces are often you know, they're either marking an ancestral space or a place where something mythical maybe happened that is considered historical. Is there a reason you left?
I don't like bees.
Were there bees?
Yeah. You
Oh.
can see them buzzing around.
No.
It
Oh.
said beware of the native bees.
I know,
I'm like, okay,
but
so
bees-
they must be like
Bees don't bother me.
aggressive.
I guess I grew up with bees. Bees make me happy. So this poor tree, you can see where the tree used to be because this used to fill the hollow part of the tree, and it's basically all died away, and all that's left now is this part. It's doing okay. It's still okay, but you can see there used to be much more of it. Much more of it. Okay, so in general, this forest, if you want to just do a quick run. So in general, this forest is said to be, and remember, we're talking ancient history, so there's some apocryphality to this, is said to be the birthplace of the founder of the Gyeongju Kim clan, who were the royal family of Shilla. And they ruled as, you know, the Shilla dynasty from 57 BC to 935 C, which is basically 3/5 of the kingdom's existence. So more or less, they were the rulers of Shilla. So the forest, of course, is not what we would necessarily call a forest. In America, we're used to much bigger spaces. But again, remember, Korea is not so lucky on the forest front. And so it's actually called Gyerim, which actually means the forest of the rooster. And now why it's called that, I've actually never been able to find out. Yeah, who knows? If you, right, maybe there were wild roosters. So according to historical records, oh, here it is. Here's the foundational myth. Okay, this sign is actually new. So according to the records, in the year 60, King Talhe heard a rooster crowing in the grove to the west of the royal palace. So up here, this was the royal palace. This hill fort area over here contained one of the royal palaces. So apparently King Taeho heard a rooster crowing to the west, which is where we are now, before dawn. When the sun rose, he set his servant to investigate, and there his servant found a small golden crate in one of the tree branches. Yeah, you're right, this is it. Below which a white rooster was crowing. White roosters are not common, by the way, not then anyway. He reported it to the king, and they brought the crate into the palace. When the crate was opened, inside was a handsome baby boy. The king happily exclaimed, "The heavens must have bestowed me a son," and raised the boy as his own. Growing up, the boy was bright and resourceful, and he was thus given the name Alji, meaning restrained wisdom, and given the surname Kim, meaning gold. Kum is the modern word for gold, by the way. Since this time, the grove has been a sacred place. So yeah, that stela is supposed to marks that site. So that stela was erected in 1803, back when the Joseon dynasty was trying to rebuild connections to its, ancient past. And yeah, so that stela is marking the spot where the golden crate was found. The spot that now has native bees, of which we must beware. Mm-hmm. By the way, the Shilla dynasty has an awful lot of boxes and eggs with children in them. And it happens in an uncommon amount in the early part of their dynasty. And I've often wondered how many of these were, shall we say, illicit assignations, either with the queen and a lover or the king and a lover. What am I looking at?
Dang it.
Please, can you hold for a while? I'm busy watching you. Can I hold for a while? Hold what way? You mean stand still? Anyway, we are in a part of Gyeongju, of Kumsong as was, that is now this beautiful park with these beautiful flowers. Really nice place to be at night. This is like the quintessential date spot. But in the Joseon era, there would have been noble residences all around here, possibly palaces belonging to members of the royal family. So this was not a big open field. This was densely packed with construction, and they've excavated so much of it and found post holes so they know where buildings were. There's also an amazing sewage system that they've excavated through here that carried water throughout the city. Hey, with magic golden crates and eggs, you don't have the Henry VIII problem. It's not a criticism. Takeda, you are so right. I think the world would be a better place if someone had just delivered Henry VIII a golden crate with a son who lived past the age of 15. Absolutely, my friend, 100%. So this creek, as it were, as I understand it, was actually built based on the archaeology that they excavated. So this wouldn't have been a creek necessarily. It may have been, but it probably was actually sewage to actually carry water and sewage out of the city and into the river. Now, is it a good thing that it flowed into the river? Probably not, but that's how it worked back then. And actually, that's how it works now mostly. So here you can see these round discs and mark places where they found post holes. And so this is how they delineate. You can kind of see the three-dimensionality that's showing you where buildings were. And you can tell that there was a courtyard and there were these buildings around it. So this was probably, you know, the royal palace for one of the members of the royal family who weren't sitting the throne, maybe the son of a concubine or an uncle or the king's brother or something like that. Yeah. And over here, this building ahead, which I don't know if you can actually see it, that is Samsungdae. That is an observatory for observing the heavens that dates to the 6th century, and it has miraculously survived. Don't know how. It survived earthquakes, it survived wars, it survived the Mongols, it survived the Qing, the Japanese, all of them. The Korean War, it's really kind of a magical building. Of course, astrology has been a big part of pretty much every civilization of humanity, as far as I can tell, spanning all the continents. And they used astrology for, predicting the future, for determining when an auspicious date would be for, say, conceiving a son who will be delivered to you in a golden crate. So having a structure like this was a very important function in order to be able to make the most accurate observations of the heavens and the movement of heavenly bodies. Reconstructions show that there was a ladder going up into it, by the way. So you didn't just have to, scaling the walls was not part of your job description as an astrologer in Kumsong.
It's great. There's an old postcard that shows people just climbing on the outside.
Oh yeah, that's true. Right. Yeah, there's a postcard from like the 1930s, 20s or 30s showing us, you're talking about the one with the schoolgirls?
Yeah, with all the
schoolgirls that are just literally climbed up these sides so that they can all be in frame for the picture. Fantastic way to treat a historic document. There is Geirim from our distance. Golden crates, yeah. Another one of the founding founder of the Kim dynasty, of the Shilla dynasty, apparently was born from an egg that was laid by a horse. Don't question it, just go with it. Plants, trees. I think those are apple trees. Those are some kind of fruit tree, I think. Yeah. So of course, Korea is 70% mountain, for those of you who don't know. And so any spot where there's habitation is generally a floodplain for a river or river systems. Glaciers didn't seem to do much in the way of carving here. Not very much anyway, but what that means is that any place you are in Korea, for the most part, you're going to have an amazing view of layers of mountains. Also means that if you want to hike someplace or walk someplace, it's going to take you longer than you think it is, because there's going to be a lot of up and down in between. Ask us how we know.
Our infamous bike ride.
Our infamous bike ride, not to Gyeongju Village. Yeah. Also, if you're in Korea and you decide you want to take a bike ride along the river is in quotes, because the bike paths that are supposedly river bike paths often end up going up into the mountains and down again. So you can still see the river, but you're not flat. And so what should be a 20-kilometer bike ride will easily turn into a 40-kilometer bike ride with severe elevation gain. So just keep that in mind.
Hey, we're almost to the
Tomb Park. And of course, one of the unfortunate things that's happened in Korea, and and in Asia in general, from our observations, is that around historic sites spring up these very garish and modern tourist complexes that don't necessarily really maintain the historic feel of the site. So Korea, if you're listening, suggestion for improvement. What's interesting is they have built in this area around this tomb park a whole plethora of new Hanok. But then they
Actually doing really well.
well they but then they cover them in all those garish signs
Oh, that's true.
that almost hide the Hanok. So it's like they sort of have gotten the idea, but they haven't quite followed it through to its logical conclusion.
Especially since some of those are really gorgeous.
Yeah, they've got some really beautiful, beautiful Hanok in the tourist, what I'm calling the tourist village, because it really is. It used to be also part of one of the few Hanok neighborhoods that survived the Korean War, but it started getting redeveloped about 10 years ago, and they actually redeveloped it mostly by building traditional style Hanok, but then they cover them in all of these glaring garish signs that completely ruin the look. So you can see here, so you can see what I'm talking about. You've got, architecture that's pretty traditional in style, not necessarily what I'd call living history village, but still.
They made it.
They made an attempt and it looks nice, but then it's covered in
Really nice.
so many glowing signs that it ruins the look. I like how in the historic parts of many European cities, for instance, even places like McDonald's have to have a handmade, wrought iron trade sign to keep it in line with the historic style. Heidelberg, for instance, used to have a McDonald's down in the Altstadt below the castle, and they had this gorgeous McDonald's wrought iron trade sign style sign. It was beautiful. Gilt, and yeah, it was lovely. Enameled and gilt, really pretty. Okay, so we are now entering the tomb park. Now, there did not used to be a wall around these tombs this way. Apparently, there just used to be residents just kind of all around these hill tombs, these tumuli, which is interesting. But then once they realized what kind of valuable things were in these lumps of land, they, shut it off by building this wall around it to try to preserve it.
So it sounds like most of the building department has got the idea, but science and decor desk didn't get the memo.
Yeah, basically.
Do you want to show people what I'm wearing?
Yeah, so my gimbal man is dressed in a fine Joseon style. He is wearing a tolik over a wing-sleeved joggery, which has the lovely function of being storage, portable storage. Yeah. Of course, I think sometimes that the boys in my family take it a little too far by putting too much in the pockets, but yeah. So that's a tolik. And tolik date back to Middle Korea. They change in style, they get shorter or longer, the waist gets higher and higher as the Joseon era moves on. But yeah, he is not wearing the proper shoes. I apologize, but I didn't show you his shoes, so it's okay. He's wearing a cap. Unfortunately, he's not wearing his mangong because we lost it.
No, I gave it to
Oh, we gave it away, that's right.
Jeremy.
Yeah, here, let me get ahead. Yeah, so he's not wearing his mangon, which is the band that goes around the head to keep the hair in check.
Jelly.
Oh, yeah, and we also have a keja. I think tomorrow he might wear his keja, or later on if it gets cool. We have quite a hanbok wardrobe, honestly. And the term hanbok is another term that is an invention of the late 19th century as a consequence of the colonization of Korea, when they started to need to draw a line between Korean clothes and Western clothes. The Japanese were wearing Western clothes, by the way, the Japanese colonists. So the term hanbok was coined at about that time. But before that, they just called them clothes.
It's a practical outfit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I want to make the cloth roll. We can go over to this tomb. I really want to make, so let me get ahead. Joseon men used to wear, if they were transporting something on their backs, they would actually have this cloth roll kind of thing, kind of backpack made out of cloth, and we need to figure out a way to rig that up so that it looks good on when we're going around in our Joseon style hanbok.
It is a nice color too.
Yeah, I love the colors. His keida, which you'll see tomorrow probably, is this gorgeous shade of green, and it just makes his eyes shine green. It's lovely.
So let me try and do my Korean. Badi we Nora.
Buddy, we nore.
A nice trip.
Yeah.
Gyeongju, you got this.
Yeah, we love Gyeongju. It's one of our favorite places to be. I have no problem coming back here again and again and again because it's just that beautiful. Hands down, one of the most beautiful and peaceful places in Korea. Okay, so you see this gate, you know this hill tomb must be important. And here's the sign. We mentioned this yesterday. Show them the sign. Climbing up the tomb is punished by a 20,000 million won fine or prison time of 2 years under Article 101 of the Protection Act. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting, isn't it? Right. So this is the tomb of King Michu, and he was a descendant of that bright and clever Aldi, and so Paekje during his time, it was a tumultuous time in the Shilla dynasty, and this was before it was the United Kingdoms period. So the Paekje were invading a lot. There were lots of attacks, and so there's this legend that says during the reign of King Yorye, Shilla was attacked by a country called Esau. They don't know who that was. And during the fighting, soldiers with bamboo only disappeared in the direction of this tomb. So remember, this tomb is from like 65 BC or AD, sorry. So 200 years later. So when the tomb was found, there was a large pile of bamboo leaves on top of it, suggesting that it was the spirit of King Michu who sent the mysterious soldiers to his country's aid. Therefore, the tomb is also known as the Tomb of the Bamboo Generals. So it's a fun little tale. Who knows how true it is? They haven't actually excavated it, but they assume that it's a wooden chamber tomb of the kind into which we shall be going. And the creepy ancestral altar with the creepy spirit throne is here. And almost all of these trees around here, these big trees here, these are all very old cherry trees. So during cherry blossom season, this place is gorgeous. It's gorgeous, but it's also packed with teeming humanity. So absolutely, if you have a choice about coming to Gyeongju, don't come on the weekends. Definitely don't come on the weekends during cherry blossom season.
Try and do what we did and make it here a week early.
Yeah.
Have cherry blossom happen early.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, with the climate changing the way it has been, cherry blossom season has been happening earlier and earlier and less predictably.
And I agree, Susan. The theme park is a 10,000 out of 10.
Yeah, we love this theme park. They're often playing traditional Korean music, but not today apparently. Yeah,
sometimes it's very haunting. You're like, do I hear something?
Yeah, so sometimes the music can be haunting to the point of disturbing. Now, there's this interesting little tomb here that has this tree growing out of it. It's beautiful. And I don't think they've ever excavated it, but not with the tree that old on top of it. But what's interesting is in Korean mythology, when there is a tree like this on top of a tomb, then the tree is supposedly a guardian spirit keeping in whatever is in the tomb. So, and we're not allowed to go walk on that grass, or I would show you, but the root system of this tree, covers the whole thing. It's a lot creepy. It's real fun. Cherry trees. Looks like we're not going to catch mowing season. We mentioned yesterday that these mounds get mowed by a complex and terrifying system of 5 people, ropes, and a lawnmower. Just a regular push lawnmower, definitely not a specialty item. And it's terrifying because you know someone's going to end up getting mowed over at some point. Yeah. Now is definitely the right time to be here.
This year.
Yeah. Bamboo.
Now, bamboo is actually not terribly common in Korean. It's actually a little cold for bamboo. So it basically only grows in the south and in smallish installations like this. It is invasive though. So you can see all these bamboo shoots here. If any of you have heard of a bamboo shoot, those are bamboo shoots. So if you get bamboo at a Chinese grocer or an Asian grocer, that's like what you're getting to eat, right? But my point is that that's all these, you know, this grass, basically bamboo is a big ass grass. They send out these runners under the ground, and so it's very hard to actually root bamboo out. And apparently there aren't enough pandas in the world.
That's why they're doing so much breeding for the panda.
That's right. That's why they're trying.
Defense against the
Yeah,
invasion.
exactly. Rainbow trees. I just love. Can you go get a look going up at the sky? I just love the lacy pattern of these leaves and the contrast of the green against the blue with the gold highlights from the sunlight shining in. Ah. Remember to always look up and just take a moment to enjoy.
Bariwi Norway.
Yeah.
Says they have guardian spirit, we believe. Hand green crystal ball. I'm not sure what that means. I think it was supposed to be an emoji that comes through
Oh.
on
Oh, I see. That doesn't come through on Restream.
on
Yeah.
Restream.
Yeah, Korean. I'm very interested in, or I'm fascinated by. I find, trying to think how to phrase. I find, historic Korean spiritual practices very interesting. Their mythology is very interesting. The complexity of the ancient Korean spirit world is very interesting. So it may or may not be obvious, but this is obviously a park that is newly built around these tombs. It did not used to look like this historically. In fact, when they first started excavating these tombs, there were houses all over the place here. People literally just built their homes into the hills, yeah, like literally into the tomb. So
Could you imagine those people? They just dug just a little bit further. They'd have been rich.
a lot further, a lot further. They'd have to dig very much further to get to the chamber tomb. Because-
really deep cellar.
Because basically the tombs are at the center and sort of underground in these tombs, under the tumuli. They're very deeply buried and on purpose. Of course, as always, there's grave robbers. And so, rulers and noble and aristocrats and other people have been taking measures against tomb raiders forever. Tomb Raider, not a new concept.
Don't know it, but this is the tomb we're going in.
This is the tomb of the Heavenly Horse. We're going to be going inside of it, and I will show you we'll get to see the artifacts that they found exactly as they found them. We'll see reconstructions and reconstruction process. We'll also get to see the excavation process. They actually have footage from excavating this tomb. A little grainy because it's super old, but yeah. Yeah. 네, 안녕하세요. 두 분?
식사는
So over here, before we go into the tomb, you can have your free photo experience in Sheila-esque clothing. So that's one of the many sort of cultural experience things that they offer here. Right. So they have a travel passport in Korea where you get it when you fly in Incheon from the tourist bureau there, and you collect your stamps, and then you actually get goodies on the way out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome to the tomb of the flying horse, the heavenly horse, the Tonma Chong. Right. So it would not have been hollow like this. It would have been filled in, but they've left it hollow so that you can see the layers and also you can walk around. So here we have the wooden chamber tomb. You know, basically in many ways built like what Americans might recognize as a log cabin style construction. But the metal staples that you can see, these are actually based on the extant ones they found when they excavated. The chamber had actually collapsed. So they've reconstructed it based on conjecture, but that conjecture is based on the fact that they actually, you can see here in the rocks, they actually found these staples just everywhere. And so they assumed that they must have been used to support the wooden chamber. Now, the soil here is so acidic that skeletons don't survive. And so there was no body left whatsoever, no tissue to be found really. And I don't think at that time they definitely weren't doing those kinds of analyses for microscopic evidence. But you see the amazing crown and that beautiful glass bead, what looks like a necklace. That's not a necklace, that's a chestless. So that drapes across your whole chest from shoulder to shoulder. And then you've got the ceremonial belt with gold objects that have, you know, ritual and shamanistic purposes. They're supposed to, votive purposes, right? They represent key aspects of rulership in the Shilla era.
Is this your first picture in Korea, Chanmacho?
My first picture?
Yeah, that's the first picture in Korea, or they said first picture in Korea. That might be theirs.
No, but no either way. So over here we have the shoes, the ceremonial shoes, right? And they have gold spikes on the bottom like cleats, and then you've got all of these bezants that just dangle from them and shimmer with every single motion. No, you would not put your bare feet in them. You would actually have some kind of slipper or other shoe. Those go over your shoes. Those aren't your shoes, contrary to what some people wrongly think. So you have lots of iron all over the place, iron ingots, you might notice. And that's because this is the Iron Age, and iron is very expensive to produce. It takes it's complex to produce. And so having iron was absolutely a sign of wealth. Burying someone with this much iron, there's theories, and I think really realistic ones about how various cultures have intentionally buried their rulers with so much wealth. And it's so that there is no, it minimizes the impact of intergenerational wealth and means that the next generation has to make it on their own instead of building super powerful families who have everything. You know, that's the same thing that happens in many, many migratory peoples in Europe. You know, in the first millennium, they buried them with everything they owned, and the sons and daughters of the clan chieftain just had to make it on their own. So, and that makes sense from a perspective of maintaining equality and maintaining social balance. God knows this man was buried with quite a bit of wealth. So there were basically two subchambers, I'll say. There was the wooden coffin, and then over here you have the actual grave goods. And what you can see in there's a whole lot of brassware. Brassware in this era was also insanely expensive. And you've got foodstuffs were included, serving vessels. You know, this king was going to have a very good afterlife. There's more ritual pieces in there.
They changed it. They've changed it. They put the mats on top now. You can't see the blue cup anymore.
You can see the blue cup. It's still where it's always been. Yeah, over here. Yes.
Oh, yeah, you're right. There's the blue cup.
Okay, but we're not getting there yet. Okay, so these are mud flaps that go on the side of a saddle. What you're seeing on top there, that beautiful hand-painted Heavenly Horse one, that's actually birch bark, not leather. And then the other mud flap, and this is the condition in which they found it. It's actually a basket weed, woven reeds, and then there is rami, and then silk, and then on top of that is this amazing gold work. So it's like this laminated mud flap. Now the fascinating thing is, can they see the gold? They probably can't really see. If you can see the hint of blue there, that is actually ancient Roman glassware. So that actually dates to the 5th. Yeah, that actually dates to the 5th century BC. We'll see that more closely in a moment, but it really shows you just how crazily interconnected the ancient world actually was. So yeah, this is basically the tomb the way it was when the archaeologists got to this level. So you can imagine how exciting it must have been to be an archaeologist getting down to this layer. Okay, speaking of layers, Let's look at this tomb. So this,
Top or bottom?
we'll start at the bottom. So we have at the base, we've got the wooden chamber, which we already discussed. Then on top of that comes this entire stone fill, which is the majority of the hill. So most people think these are just dirt. They're not, right? And then on top of that, if you see that thin layer that goes all the way across the top of the stone, that is clay. And that is a very solid layer of waterproof clay intended to preserve this in the long term and keep water from getting in and destroying everything. Right? Then on top of that comes the dirt, the final dirt layer. And what we don't know is whether at that time they then covered in grass, put plants in it, or just let nature take its course. I think it would make more sense to plant something on top of it though, so that, rain doesn't wash it away, especially in monsoon season. Yep. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are now going to go and see some of the extant pieces from the grave goods, and we're going to also see reconstruction process. So, yeah, the first thing I think we're going to see are the mud flaps, right? Yeah. Not working. Oh no, it's frozen. I'm sad.
You can't watch the
You
video.
can't watch the video.
Here's the reconstructed one.
Okay, well, here is a reconstructed mud flap. And normally there's a video that actually shows how it's made, which is amazing. Actually, I think I have a video on my channel of that video. But this was specifically for processions, right? You can see they know that this was because they have these statues they find in the graves that show all these different pieces, so they can tell exactly what the pieces are, right? So the mud flap actually literally keeps the mud from actually spattering up on your legs. For any of you who ride horses, you know you're going to get dirty. Right? Yeah. So this is a birch mud flap. This is the reconstruction of, this is how it would have looked before it sat in a grave for 1,500 years. So I know it looks like leather, but it's not. It's crazy, but the thin layer of bark and on the back, and then
Might be too deep into. Oh no, we're back.
we're back. Great. Nope. Oh, right. So here is the original mud flap as it was found. Looks great for. That's sad.
Oh, we're back.
Do we have anyone actually viewing at this point? Oh, great. Here is the original mud flap. And you can just see this amazing workmanship. And great. The buckles, the stitching, which is still intact in place. Right. So it's called a heavenly horse. It doesn't have wings. Heavenly horses are just magically flying creatures. The little swirls come off of its legs. This is an indication of its heavenly status as a creature of the air, not a creature of the earth. So here we get to some of the saddle pieces, the harness, right? And again, they've actually used the statue to identify these pieces that they found in the grave and figure out where they go. So you can imagine these amazing, bright, shiny gold pieces just shining in the sunlight.
He's covered in gold.
And so this piece looks kind of funny, but then you realize it goes on the back of the horse, kind of over their tail. And again, they were able to actually identify this on the statue. It's pretty cool. So here they actually have footage from the excavation of them finding these pieces from this horse tack. This stirrup, actually, believe it or not.
So jealous.
Yeah, gilt bronze stirrup. They show the process of, it actually has a wooden interior, so it's not solid metal, right? And then the layer comes on top, and it's riveted in place. And there, thus, if you look at it straight on, Shows the mud flap in situ with the tack actually on the horse. The other mud flap, so you can get an idea of what that would have looked like. You're still at a weird angle. Yeah. So yeah, these are the pommel and cantle of the saddle. So would have gone over top of the saddle and been strapped in specifically for ritual purposes. I very much doubt a king ever rode into battle in one of these.
That'd be a ballsy move.
Yeah. There are so many people here. Normally there's no one here. Okay, here is the back view of the tomb. It's lovely how they've done this. You can actually see the pommels and cantles as they looked when they opened up the tomb. On top of, you can see the pieces in the center top there. Those actually get affixed onto the crown. Those are additional bling in case you need your crazy crown to look even
You
crazier.
actually see the hats to which they're fixed right there.
Right, then those are part of the thing, and then that all goes possibly inside of the crown. So here you can see a reconstruction of the royal regalia and actually sort of placed on a frame that gives you an idea of how it looked on a human. You can see what I meant by chestless, like it goes over your shoulders and over your chest. It's not just pendant around your neck. Then the amazing belt and the shoes. And as far as we can tell, it's both men and women who wear this, not just men. This is not just a king's regalia. This is also a queen's regalia. And the original belt would have been attached either to leather or fabric. It wouldn't have just been a metal belt. They actually have some like bits that have survived.
Nice thing is you can actually get around and see the
Whole thing.
and it glitters in the light too much.
Was it shining too much?
Too much.
Oh yeah. We do not.
This is the hats.
Yeah, these are reconstructions of the tiara piece adornments, as they call them, right? And they're actually not certain if there was a specific symbolism. They kind of remind people of deer or deer antlers.
Oh, this one says butterfly.
Yeah, butterfly shape that changes sometimes. Okay.
Here's my favorite piece.
Yeah. So here is the glass. So this is the glass that they found in the tomb.
This is the replica.
And it's a replica of it. The original's in the museum,
Yeah.
which we'll see on Friday, I think. So I know that looks like something maybe you could get at IKEA, but that is actually an ancient Roman. That's a 6th century, early 6th century. So like 5th to 6th century Roman piece of Roman glassware. So this map shows the interconnectivity of the world in the 5th and 6th century AD, because this shows you the points of origin of the pieces that they have found here in Sheila era tombs, just how very not isolated things were. So the glassware all comes from Europe or from Constantinople, and then you've got jade coming from Japan. You've got this mother of pearl ladle, which comes from Okinawa, and that's this over here. Isn't that beautiful? I would drink water from that. I would drink anything from that, honestly. You've got glass beads from Thailand.
Those are harder to see, but I can show them the comma.
Yeah, the jade commas. I call them the jade embryos. So those are all different kinds of jade, and it's they
Crystal.
yeah include actual footage from the actual excavation.
I'm finding a gold earring, I believe.
Yeah, one of the gold ear pendants. Earring definitely doesn't quite give the right idea. I mean, just how exciting it must have been when you spent years brushing dirt and never finding anything, and suddenly you find a piece of gold. Very, very stoic.
Very stoic.
Yeah, very, very stoic. And then over here are pictures from the excavation. You can see what this area used to look like. This is the tomb park that we just walked through. This is what it was like back when they were excavating in the 70s. You can tell it's a whole different ball of wax now. That's what it looked like when they got down to it.
Yep, and there's jade. I didn't mean crystal. I meant jade.
He meant jade, clear jade, crystal clear jade is what he really meant. Just how exciting it must have been to be these people finally getting to that layer. You can see, all the stone around them, and then this is them working in the chamber itself.
And the best part is, I read that when you uncover gold, it still shines like the day it was made.
That's yeah, because pure gold, of course, or the more gold, the less corrupt it is. Yeah. So over here, they've actually done some interesting things. They've got two different displays. One of them will actually show you the reconstruction process for each of the pieces in the tomb, and the other will actually show you how the tomb is put together. Yeah. So I've actually done videos I've filmed that, so you can check out my channel if you want to see that process. Okay. Yep. Oh, we need to eat. Yep. Well, let's
Where are you from?
well, we're from the United States, but we spend a lot of time in Daegu. Yeah.
You're truly enjoying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we love Korea. Yeah, we do.
Make a lot of good memories.
Oh, we do. We've been here for 11 years, more or less. Yeah, on and off, yeah. Yeah.
Have a good
Thank you. You as well. Oh, you can get to find out. You can show them the stamp, but also So if you
Some of the
the Hanok that they've rebuilt since they redeveloped the neighborhood. So yeah, if you go to Incheon, and I don't know about probably Gimhae as well, you can get a tourist passport. And you can get the Korean Heritage Stamp Tour. And as you collect stamps from the various sites, when you go back to Incheon to fly out, if you go to the tourist office there, it's basically in the train station arrivals area of Terminal 1 or Terminal 2. You can actually get some pretty cool bling depending on how many stamps you've collected. So here you can see what I meant by, they've built these wonderful traditional Korean Korean buildings, but then at upper level, it still looks okay, but at eye level, it's just very busy.
I
Anyway,
think they did a good job on this one.
yeah, this one's actually a bad example of
The Kata and Kata.
fluffy, something fluffy. Okay, well, everyone, it's a Castella bakery. Castella is another thing that the Japanese brought to Korea that stuck around, which they got from the Portuguese, Castella bread. So yeah, Daegu is very famous for its Castella bread. Okay, everyone, are there any, questions?
Susan said, thank you for this amazing tour. It took my breath away. Takes ours away every time.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Susan. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Are there any final questions before we get brunch? And you're not going with us. We're going to get brunch without you.
Korean individual, body. I can't say it this time.
Bari Winore?
That's where we lived in Korea.
Oh, we have been spending a lot of our time in Daegu. So we have we stay for protracted periods of time in Daegu, but we have been in Pyeongtae and we have been in Dongducheon also. Yeah. So we've lived kind of all over the peninsula at this point, at some point or another.
Definitely traveled all over.
Yeah, we've traveled all over for certain. Well, not quite. We haven't really gotten much to the southwest. Gyeongju is as southwest as we've gotten, really. Yeah, we have to do more southwest stuff. Okay, any other questions before we part ways? Thank you for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe. And if you feel like it, come back and leave an emoji, even if you don't want to leave a comment under the video after it posts. Otherwise, stay tuned. We will be doing a lot more live streaming here from Gyeongju. Tomorrow, we are going to an actual Joseon era Hanok village outside of Gyeongju where people still live. And that will be much more traditional than Gyochon Village, I think. And on Friday, we will be going to the Gyeongju National Museum and giving you a live tour of the museum and its amazing finds. And there will be some other random streaming, probably medieval crafting and stuff in between. So stay tuned on either Travels with the Creative Contessa or the Creative Contessa. Make sure you turn those notifications on if you want to be notified, if YouTube decides that it will notify you. Okay, everyone. Otherwise, if there are no final questions, thank you so very much. It was my honor to take you around one of my favorite places in the world, and I hope I get to take you around more of it very shortly. Until then, may your journey be creative and your travels unexpected. Bye, everyone.